Welcome to the Patryk Real Estate Show, where we explore the fascinating world of real estate investing with your host, Patryk Switek. Patryk is a dynamic young entrepreneur and an accomplished real estate investor who's passionate about helping others achieve financial freedom. Each week, we sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals in the real estate industry and delve into their personal journeys, lessons learned, and secrets to their success. Let's dive into this week's episode.
I'm so excited. Brian Davila on the podcast, on the Patryk Real Estate Show. For the people that don't know, Brian Davila is an educator in the space. He's owned Airbnbs. He's done flips. He's done wholesale. He's done hundreds of deals across everything. And he's also in multifamily. Brian Davila also helps a lot of people get into investing and learning everything about pretty much real estate investing. And he's just a really good resource for the community. So I'm really happy to have you, man.
Let's go, baby. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Can you maybe tell a little bit about your story and how you came up to realize real estate investing, what you were doing before that? I think you have a pretty incredible story.
Yeah, I have a different story. So I'll give you the quick version. Born in Puerto Rico, moved to Vegas when I was 5, grew up with a single mom, dropped out of high school or decided high school wasn't for me in the 9th grade. Started working 2 jobs, did 2 jobs until I was 25, 2 to 3 jobs, and then got into real estate. Started off as a realtor, was making really good money as a realtor. Started my first year, I made like 150K as a realtor, got up to 500K a year as a realtor, then got into flipping, thanks to our buddy Ryan Pineda. So started flipping houses and wholesaling, got that up to $1 million a year in revenue, and then started working with Ryan at Future Flipper in 2020, and then became partners with him. So now I have what we call Wealthy Investor, which was Future Flipper, still flipping wholesale houses, and then I built a rental portfolio of multifamily, single family, and Airbnbs.
Awesome. So which one's your favorite? What's your investing style?
Honestly, flipping and wholesaling is my favorite.
Is that because you excel in it, or you have all the teams around it, or how do you?
You know why? Because of the cash conversion cycle. So how much time from when I start to when I get my money back plus profit? That's why I like it. I could flip a house and make 60K net. Most people don't understand the word net. So net, and I get all my money back within 3 to 6 months. So with Airbnb, it takes a lot longer. With apartments and multifamily, it usually takes a lot longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say that it's a lot more active investment versus much more passive in other avenues?
I don't believe in passive real estate. I don't believe there's such thing as passive real estate. I don't believe in that. I think that's a myth.
Yeah. Okay. So why do you say that?
As a landlord and an Airbnb host, there's things that are always coming up. Tenants don't pay. There's a freaking fire, a sewer line breaks. Big things happen where the landlord still has to make a decision. My property manager can't decide, hey, this septic tank in Joshua Tree needs to be replaced. It's going to be 15K. They can't just go make that decision on my behalf. Right. There's still a lot of decisions that need to be made. I still need to manage the managers. I've had a Airbnb host that didn't do so well where I had to let them go. I've had property managers not do a good job and get bad tenants. I had to let them go. So there's still active things. Refinancing, no one can go refinance a house for me. I still have to do these things. I still have to go find the house and purchase it. It's all active to me.
100%. And your strategy, because you were buying Airbnbs in Joshua Tree, you're doing a similar strategy to what we were doing, which is I like to coin it the burster. I don't even know at this point, but it pretty much a BRRRR and a STR, like you pretty much buy this ugly house, you make it look nice, and then you refi and you make it into an Airbnb. How was your experience doing that in Joshua Tree? I know you've done like a bunch of them, like probably 15, 20.
It wasn't good, to be honest. So I started flipping in Joshua Tree. So that's what got me to Joshua Tree initially, because I was buying houses for 75, selling them for 175, I remember I bought one for 125 and then I ended up selling it for 275 in a very short amount of time. Like inflation was just killing Joshua Tree. Everything was booming. And
this was during COVID, right?
This was during COVID. Yep.
Yeah.
During COVID and before COVID. This was before COVID also. I just didn't know that Joshua Tree was this big thing. I was just like, oh, it's like a little town outside. And then I've told this story before, but I bought a house in Joshua Tree. And then Tony from Bigger Pockets hit me up. He was like, hey, congrats. I was going after that house. I was going to do an Airbnb. And I was like, okay, what does that look like? What does an Airbnb look like? He walked me through the numbers. I was like, yeah, let me try to do this. So that's what initially sparked me Airbnb in Joshua Tree.
Awesome. And since then, are you still in Joshua Tree Airbnb or not as much?
Yeah. So sold a few of them. I think I have 5 left, and then I'm selling one for a gigantic loss. It's probably going to be $100,000 loss. Yeah. Big boy numbers. But yeah, what I've learned as a real estate investor is you're going to take losses, no matter how special you think you are.
Right.
Nobody is immune to the real estate cycle.
Yeah. You take big wins and you take big losses, but overall, as long as you're net positive, and that's what matters. Exactly. So I'm a big believer in that. It's the law of numbers. And personally, our properties also took a tank. We had to do a full remodel to some of our properties because they weren't up to par. So definitely Joshua Tree is a tough market, and I get it. Cool. Yeah. So I know that's how we initially met, Brian. So that's why I wanted to fill that in. But you do a lot more than that, obviously. We'll get into more wealthy investor stuff, but I'm curious how you really built out this flipping machine, right? You have this business it's not passive, but it's less active than most people have their flipping, right? Oh, yeah. So how did you build that business and made it such a sustainable to be able to generate cash and able to buy assets?
If I were to put it in simple terms, right? With every business, you could build out like a web where there's like the outcome and then all the pieces to the business. Right. So for flipping, if flipping is the bubble, you have renovations, you have marketing, you have sales, and then you have admin, and then you have financing. So admin, I don't do any admin work. So I have a TC that does all the admin work. In renovations, I have a contractor that does the whole thing. I give him the first look and then he copies the look every single time. With sales, I have salespeople. Marketing, those salespeople were looking on market or through wholesalers. So we're not spending anything on marketing. And then the financing, I have to do the financing part because I'm the one budgeting and getting the loans and all that stuff. So to put in the most simple terms, I just delegated most of the arms of the business. So with Airbnb, for example, if Airbnb is the top, right? There's finding the Airbnbs, purchasing the Airbnb, so finances, furnishing the Airbnbs, managing the Airbnbs, and then admin, which includes getting licenses, all the administrative work that needs to get done. So if you break it down like that, and then you think of who, not how, who could do each task, then your business should get a lot simpler.
Can you explain the concept of who, not how, for the people that haven't read the book?
So I haven't even read the book, but I understand the concept of, let's say me and you, Pat, we are talking about, give me any problem. I'll walk through it with this.
Let's talk about the flipping business.
Okay, flipping business. So if me and you are trying to figure out the flipping business from scratch, instead of me going on YouTube or reading a book or anything, I'm going to think, who knows all this information? Who is already doing it? And I can go to for the answers. Instead of me trying to figure out how to flip houses by myself, I just find who is currently doing it. And then once I find them, work with them, leverage their time and experience and resources and affiliates and referrals instead of me trying to build everything from scratch. It was the same thing with Airbnb. Tony was doing Airbnbs. So I literally would just like, hey, what lender do you use? Hey, who do you use for this? Hey, who do you use for that? So it expedited my success because I didn't try to figure it out by myself. I didn't even think about trying to figure it out myself. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm a big proponent of that. I actually, two things I want to say. One is I met my business partner. And when I met my business partner, I leveraged his hard money lender and all of his rates. Instead of having to flip 20, 50 houses to get those rates, leverage his network of contractors. It was just so much easier to get plugged in. And then I found the deal and then we brought it together and we just made it happen. Now, the second thing I'll say is in terms of mentorships, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Wealthy Investor. If anybody wants to talk to Brian is the go-to for Wealthy Investor. And he basically teaches people this across the board. They have conferences, they have masterminds, they have different groups for different people. It's a whole educational platform. And I couldn't vouch for it more. It's amazing. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that, like what you're doing with Wealthy Investors. I feel like you've built this business and now you're really trying to focus on giving back to people, building out Wealthy Investor. And I really want to just get more into that.
So like I said, in 2020, Brian brought me on as like an accountability coach. I was doing it and then got a lot of positive feedback. So he was like, hey, why don't you come on and run it? So I came in and run it. We've grown crazy amounts over the last couple of years. And yeah, since then, I've just been really focused a lot on that. That's taken a lot of my time, especially when the market shifted. So when the market shifted, I've been through a market correction before. So I didn't come into this market correction with a big ego like a lot of people did, where they felt like, oh, I'm Mr. Figure It Out. I made $1 million last year, so I could fight the recession. No, interest seasonality in every business is real, no matter how great you are. So right now, that's taking a lot of my attention, but I am going to start wholesaling more than flipping.
So walk us through your decision-making on what you're doing in this market and what you tell students to do in this market. What's
the lowdown is, one, do not speculate. So just learn how to run your numbers. Learn how to run your numbers. Do not gamble. Everyone was a genius, right? If you bought a house in 2020 or 2021 in Joshua Tree, you made money. Even if you paid $20,000 above market value, you still would make money. So 100%. Everyone thought that's how real estate works. All the beginners from 2019 to 2021, they're like, oh, this is how real estate works. You just buy and you make, like literally, So I always say this, it's a cheesy dad joke, but I remember when I started in 2015, if you listed a house overpriced, guess what? It didn't sell. No matter how long, no matter if you took the best photos, it didn't sell.
Best marketing, whatever, best agent, doesn't matter.
Drones. But in 2019 to 2022, you could list the house for whatever, right? And then I remember when I first started, a 5 to 6% interest rate was good. People were used to like, oh, I can get a 3 or a 4% on a investment loan. That doesn't exist right now. Now you're looking at like 8. The numbers are starting to get squeezed where you're like, all right, if I buy a $250,000 house, I'm looking at a $2,000 mortgage. That's a big jump from where it was the last couple of years. So learn your numbers. Don't gamble.
That's the one and only tip.
That's the one and only tip, honestly. Yeah. That's
Just don't gamble. Don't speculate.
Don't speculate. Know how to run your numbers. Because the last couple years, everyone's been speculating on ARVs, Airbnb revenue. They're like, oh, I could just buy any house in Joshua Tree and I'm $5 to $6,000 a month. That doesn't work anymore. You see, you're the Airbnb guru.
Yeah, I would agree, man. I think that people were so used to the COVID numbers where they underwrote these properties that they were burning or buying. And now it's not the same way. And you start seeing everyone list their properties that are in Joshua Tree proper, like the village or the residential areas, and realizing crap, is this how it's supposed to be? And it's not as glamorous. And so it's actually sad. I do get a lot of people that come to me and I feel bad for them because they want to sell me the house sub 2, and even sub 2, subject to their existing mortgage. It just doesn't make sense. Yep. The numbers are, it's just such a tough market right now. And there's people that crush it. Trust me. We have so many clients that just absolutely crush it, but it's all timing the market and people are trying to, it's a whole discussion. Timing the market is a whole nother discussion that I want to ask you too.
Can't time the market. That's so for me, right?
Yeah.
Here, okay, there's the first rule is know your numbers.
Right.
Second rule, never pay retail. Even if you're buying, if you would have bought a house, let's say in 2021, below market value, it's safer to pull an exit plan than buying at market value and then renovating a property. And that's why I'm taking that 100K loss, because I didn't follow my own advice. I thought, you know what? I wanted to get a last minute write-off. So I bought a property at market value in Joshua Tree in December. Stupid ass idea.
Worse. It was the top of the market, pretty much.
Literally top of the market, paid full value, renovated it, and then market shifted in April, 4 months later. And yeah, I just took a beating because I refused to realize that, hey, never pay retail. All my other houses, I'm paying 50, 60% on market. So guess what? If I end up having to pull the parachute and come up with a different exit plan, the loan is cheaper because I bought below market value, and I could sell and not take a haircut. But when you pay market value and the market shifts, you're screwed. And you could be 100%. Screwed for years. That's why I'm taking the loss now, because my thoughts on the market is we're not going to see a turnaround anytime soon.
So what are you thinking? This is all this is speculating in a way,
which
is your number one rule not to do. But what do the numbers say right now, Brian? What's the market saying right now?
The market in Joshua Tree, obviously the houses,
or just in general, everywhere, like across, let's say across the US.
This goes to speculation. I can't speculate across the United States, but I can tell you in Joshua Tree specifically, house values are coming down. Do you agree with that or no?
I agree.
And they're coming down fast. So with the hype gone from Joshua Tree and with a looming recession, I believe that in Joshua Tree specifically, house values will continue to go down, especially in the summer, because rents are going to go down, and then people are going to start listing their properties because they're like, crap, I didn't get a freaking booking this whole month. I'm gonna just sell this crap. Inventory, and again, inventory always goes up in the summer. So this is not advice.
You know what's crazy? Days on market went up almost 100%. For pretty much all of the area of Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I just did a report on, but yeah, it's absolutely wild. So you would never look at like the whole US and say you wouldn't say, oh, the whole US, the housing market is going down. You would only look at the numbers for specific regions or areas that are more hyper-focused, I'm assuming.
Real estate is a local business. It's not, I don't care what's going on in Atlanta, Georgia, or Miami. Miami's crushing it right now. Joshua Tree is not. So it's just supply and demand. And I thought Joshua Tree would be more protected because it is so small. But I think a lot of people, were building, they had all these plans for Joshua Tree, and now they're just like not. So I just think that Joshua Tree I think it's not going to go away. People are still going to make money on Airbnbs because people go to the park. That's not going to go away. But this inflation of house values went away.
I think that's pretty common across like Southern California in general, like this inflation of house values that we've seen during COVID. Cool. So no speculation. That's your one piece of advice. You said also to not pay retail. That was your second piece of advice. Do you have anything else you want to share that you've seen students or people in your community that have made these mistakes, and it's like vital beginner mistakes or just expert investor mistakes? I feel like we always learn. What do you have anything else?
Another tip for anyone who's just starting off is take it one day at a time. I think most beginner people, they might look at you and be like, oh, like Pat, I want to have a bunch of Airbnbs. And then I also want to have a motel. And then I also want to flip and wholesale and then buy some cabins in Tennessee and do all these things. You can't get to step 10 if you can't even figure out step 1. And most people, 100%. They get so confused that they never take the first step, where it's like, hey, go look at a freaking house. Maybe that's your big ass step. Don't work. Go literally look at a house. Walk in a house, look around, ask questions, figure out the mortgage, figure out what the interest rate would be, figure out what the down payment would be, so you could start getting your first deal. Don't just take it one day at a time, one small goal at a time. You can't hit a home run on your first at bat every time. Sometimes you just need to get on base. Sometimes you just need contact. Even if it goes out of bounds or whatever, you just need to get contact to get some confidence. So
100%.
Yeah.
You got to take that swing though. You got to take that swing. You can't just wait there.
How does that relate to what you were? Do you remember your mindset when you were first like looking at real estate and like what your goals were?
Yeah. So in the beginning, look, I mean, it can get overwhelming, right? All these people are making money on Airbnb. It was like 2021. And I started seeing like Alex Sabio, who actually got Tony into Airbnbs. He also got me into Airbnbs, which is actually really, and I was looking at it, I was like, okay, I would love to own like Airbnbs in Cancun and like all these different areas and like travel. I try to visualize this crazy lifestyle, right? Everyone gets excited when they first start. They're like, wow, I can make 50, 100,000 in one flip. This is crazy. Yeah. And then you start getting into it and you realize, whew, there's a lot of stuff. I didn't even know what an EMD was. I actually have a journal entry that I wrote, which I love keeping a journal entry. I decided just to take action from the get-go instead of analysis paralysis that I had the first 6-12 months. And I remember just putting an offer in. I'm like, I just need to put one offer in. If I do that, I win. This is a win for this week. And I put an offer in. I had no idea it was going to get accepted. People said that it was like, you have to put 30 offers in before you get one accepted. So I was just like, I'll just put one offer in. Dude, it got accepted right away. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to do this thing. And I was freaking out. I was like, dude, I didn't even read YouTube videos or watch YouTube videos or anything. And I went into the contract and they said, I need to pay an EMD. And so I remember writing my journal saying, what the fuck is an EMD? What the hell is this shit? And why are they asking me to pay it? Because I didn't even have the money in my bank account at the time. So I was like trying to figure out how to get the money. It's really, but yeah, the deal. Yeah. It's one of those things.
You kind of went through what I said, where you have all these ideas, and then eventually you're like, all right, the first step is to make an offer, because I can't get to Cancun and 100K on a flip if I don't make an offer. So
100%. And I agree with you. I think I haven't heard anybody say it that way, Brian, but I resonate with that. I think that's a really good way of saying it. I might steal it from you. Take one step at a time, right? You got this big vision, but at the end of the day, you got to see what's your step forward, right? You can't look 100 miles ahead of you. You got to look in front of you first, right? 100%. What's now you're on step 1,000 or whatever, Ryan. So what's the game plan now, man? What are you trying to do? What's like the goal moving forward?
So one thing that I've always been very conscious of is finances. So I grew up with my mom, bro. I remember my mom like vividly crying because she couldn't pay rent in our apartment. I remember her telling me, like, we'd be at the store, my little sister wants a Crunch chocolate bar. So, oh, we don't have money to do that. So that has been instilled in my brain forever. So now I've always been, this is pre-recession, pre-inflation, everything, just stacking up my finances in a very secure way. So actually paying off properties. I know people are like, oh, don't pay it off, blah, 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 blah. It's nice not having a mortgage. Yeah, I'll say it again.
I agree.
It's very nice not having a mortgage. It's very nice having properties that are paid off. It's very nice having 7 figures in the bank, where I know all these other gurus are like, cash is trash. blah, 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 invest. Oh, if your money's you're losing money in the bank. No, that's not true. Because guess what? When shit hits the fan, you don't have to worry. When they raise interest rates, guess what? I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. So I think saving money, really building that financial foundation is super key. Not getting hyped up with, oh, I want to own 100 doors. I'm sure we hear that all the time. I want to hear why 100? Where does that number come from? Does anyone know?
No, it's funny because in the Airbnb world, people will come up to you and flex and say, I have 30 Airbnbs. Like, how many do you have? And it's hilarious because like my 5 Airbnbs can make more money than 30 Airbnbs buttfuck nowhere, Ohio. Like why would you want 30 Airbnbs and all that headache when you could do that with 5? It makes no sense to me.
Yep. And then if let's just say your goal is $10,000 a month. If you could pay off 6.5 houses, that's $10,000 a month. And you don't have to worry about anything if they're paid off and your house is paid off. Because guess what? If you all of a sudden need some cash, do you know what you go do? Do you know, Pat? I'm sure.
When you want to get cash?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a special thing in the financing world called a refi.
Yeah.
Or cash out
HELOC,
refi. Yeah.
A refi. And I can pull HELOC. I can pull this money out and it's there.
Yep. So, it's one of those things. And you know what, Brian, you actually bring up a really good point. And I tell this to people as well, and that there comes a point when you're younger and you have a heavy risk tolerance, like where I'm at. I'm willing to I'm not over leverage, but I'm willing to leverage heavy. I'm willing to get the crazy loans and 3.5% down and all this to grow. Yeah. But then once you get to, I'm in the growth stage, right? I'm still growing. I'm still buying these assets. Money's out. I'm cash poor. But at a certain point, Brian, you get to a point where you're like, you know what? I just want to pay off these houses, have less liability, get cash flow coming in. Yeah. And I think that's a smart thing to do. You should have a foundation like that because you can always leverage against those assets, right? Yeah. And you could do HELOCs, you could do refis. There's so many things you could do. So I'm a big, I wouldn't say I'm a Dave Ramsey fan, but I'm not where the gurus are to say to leverage. I think leverage, but at a certain point, build equity in what you have, right?
You got to do both. So you got to buy right, try to pay off. I have to do both at the same time. I'm not Mr. Dave Ramsey where it's, oh, no debt. Like I had millions of dollars of risky loans, but with that risky money, I've always been investing it into real estate since day one. You got to do both. And there's 2 quotes that I remember. There's 3 quotes. So nobody thinks, no one opens a business or takes a risk expecting to file bankruptcy, but they still happen every day. So nobody is immune to financial hardship. So the only way you could prevent that is by thinking about it and not over speculating. Second thing, with divorce or partnerships, right? Nobody gets married at the altar thinking, man, we're going to get a divorce.
Yeah.
No, but guess what? Divorces happen every day. Partnerships end every freaking day. So you need to have in mind, hey, look, I'm committed to this partnership, but I still have to look out for myself on the back end, rather that 100%. Be with the contract, rather that be with not letting 100% of whatever go away. You have to take care of yourself. And then third, this has nothing to do with real estate, but it does sometimes. The way you start is the way they expect you to finish. So if you start a partnership and you are like, hey, I'll pay for this, I'll pay for that, I'll pay for this. And then later on, you decide, hey, you know what? Maybe we should both be paying for this. Why am I paying for everything? Who's wrong? The one who started acting a certain way or the one who was expecting them to keep going? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, because the expectation is set from the start. Unless you say otherwise, unless you say, hey, you know what, later, right now, I'll pay for everything. And then later, once you recoup the cash, we'll both pay.
Yeah.
So
But like you
expectation
said,
setting.
if the expectations are set up front, if there's no expectations and you're acting a certain way with your business partner, hey, you could take an extra 50K. Oh, you want to borrow money from the business? That's fine. Until 2 years later, you're like, hey, dude, you can't be like borrowing money from me. So I think those are three things that I've seen with a lot of entrepreneurs and their partnerships is like they were a certain way in the beginning, and then they start trying to take it back. The other partner gets upset, and then there's issues.
That's very interesting.
Has that happened to you yet? Or?
Not in real estate, but it's happened I was in the tech world before, and I've seen it happen quite a bit. Like most times, because startups fail like 99%, I don't even know the stat, but it's like very high. And the people that like the most cases tend to be due to team members, right? Yeah. And a big part of that is it's not the idea. People think it's the idea that fails. It's really the team that fails. And I think that's really interesting. It was like 40% of the lot, like 40% of the time it's the team. And that's, whoa, like that's so high. How do we prevent that when only 15 or 20% is the idea? And it's like people are offended about the idea of how we're going to scale when it's really, is this a good partner for me?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. So with that being said, and all that, what's going to be new for Brian? Actually, let's go through the last three questions. I want to go to the last three questions. First one being, what's new for Brian? What is Brian working on in the future? What is he doing?
The great thing about me is I'm not into new things. So I'm going to be in real estate for the next 10 years. I'm not going anywhere. I don't believe in apps and all these crazy things. Like real estate, tried and true. So I'll be a 45-year-old multi-millionaire because of real estate. So I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean? So real estate, and then just trying to keep growing wealthy investor to the biggest brand in real estate investing that there is.
I love that. And wealthy investor, that is a new brand that you guys just inherited, right? Like you guys used to be Future Flipper and all that kind of stuff. So maybe walk me through that rebrand, because that was recent. That was like a month ago or 2 months ago.
It was recent. So with Future Flipper, people kept saying, oh, it's just about flipping houses. But our vision has always been flip houses and then buy rentals. We're not flipping houses just to flip houses. We're flipping houses to build wealth and buy rentals. And then the wealthy lifestyle is to have great finances, have a great family life, have a great health, have a great spiritual life, have great peace of mind. So that's like what wealthy means to us. It's not just having a lot of money. The slogan is don't go broke trying to get rich, which I'm sure all of us, most entrepreneurs have been there, where they're chasing money so hard that they lose their mental health, they lose relationships, they can lose their health. Has that happened to you yet or no?
Yeah, it has. It definitely has. Very early on in my career, like when I was like 16, 17, like that's when I had my first company. So that's when I like really felt, oh my God, I'm just chasing money at this point. And I learned very early on, like 18 years old, I was like, dude, I don't care about money. It was crazy. It was like this crazy epiphany. I still don't care about. I drive a Honda Civic 2012. I love it, dude. It has 180,000 miles on it. So
that's very mature of you, because I speak to entrepreneurs every day at Wealthy Investor. They go through marriage problems. They're not happy. They're not satisfied. They gained a bunch of weight. They're not taking care of their business. But at the end of the day, your business doesn't love you back.
100%.
Your wife does, your kids do, your parents do, but your 100%. Business doesn't love you back. Because guess what? If you stop giving your attention to your business today, your business will go away. Your mom, your wife, your kids, your best friends, they're not going to go away. So you just need 100%. Balance.
So let me ask you then, are you living the wealthy way right now?
Honestly, I wish I was better, but I am. Every day I go home at 5. I hired a therapist for me and my wife to make our relationship better. I try to do stuff with my kids. Like I'll have my son in the backyard with me just doing stuff. Like I try my best to live the wealthy way. I'm a lot more conscious of it, where before I was just like work. Now I'm like, all right, there's people and then there's work. It's not just work over people.
Okay, awesome. Oh, but you had a little bit of a hesitation there as well. Are you like, it seems like things are good. Social media shows nothing into deep. I don't know if it's deep and personal. You don't have to share that,
Yeah,
but I was just
no.
curious.
So for, let's say we had our biggest month ever in February, right? And I'm the type of person that's damn, like, we got to do this and this. That's just my mindset. I'm never
Right.
going to be, yeah, I'm great. I'm always, no matter what. Literally, I remember I sold 15 houses one time. And someone told me, they're like, oh, good job. And I was like, for what? They're like, oh, you sold 15 houses. I was like, that's
Wow.
literally what I do for a living. That's my job.
You know what's
That's
funny?
not the
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. People are like, dude, you just bought a property management company. Congrats. And I'm just thinking here, well, I'm just doing what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see it as accomplishment. I'm like, I'm still not nowhere near where I need to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like we're hard on ourselves as entrepreneurs. But I think, Brian, I will say, at least from the outsider perspective, it seems like I've seen your wife, I've talked to her, and you guys seem happy. Things look great. Obviously, things are not going to be perfect, but overall, I feel like you are living pretty much the embodiment of the wealthy way. I think the biggest reason I say that is because success is a metric, right? You don't show success as how much money you make. I don't think that is, especially when talking to you, at least, Brian, you feel like somebody is successful when they have a really good balance in their life. They have a really great family and they have great friends, they have a great foundation.
Right now, the people that I see the most successful in my eyes right now are people that have an attitude like Tony from Bigger Pockets. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Nobody ever says anything bad about Tony because he's literally such a nice guy. He's such a loving person that you're just like, dude, this guy's
I can't hate him. You just love him.
That to me is success right now. I want to be that person. Like, dude, Brian's the man. Brian's this. Brian helped me do that. Brian helped me do that. Where people talk good about me behind my back. No one, at the end of the day, no one cares about how much money you have. It doesn't freaking matter. Yeah, when you're broke, there's times where, yeah, you need to focus on money. But right now, that's something that I really want to focus on, is like impacting other people where they're like, dude, Pat's the freaking man. Like, I love Pat's this, Pat's that. Not just, oh, Brian made $10,000 today on a wholesale.
Yes, I love that. That is awesome.
Have you thought about that before?
Yeah. What? Yeah, no, I have. That's why I asked you, and I feel like we're on the same level on that. That's awesome. Yeah. I really do think impacting people around you that's why I did Us Share Nation, right? Like there's no profit motive behind it. I mean, the conference, we didn't even make money on the conference. We made a couple, like a little bit over, but pretty much broke even. Yeah. It was about the community. It was about the people. So I agree with you, man. So what book would you recommend to the audience? It doesn't have to be a real estate book that you read that you really,
I think, let me look at my books. So if you're trying to learn flipping,
it could be anything.
I start off, yeah. If you're trying to learn flipping, I started off with Flip Your Future, which like literally is like step by step how to flip houses. So that's really helpful. Recently, I read The Power of One More by Ed Milet. I am not a big motivational guy, but that was a good book. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins is a really good book.
So good.
$100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy is a really good book. Have you read that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good book. Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone, to me, was a great book for entry-level sales. 10X is a really good book. There's a biblical book that Ryan gave me. I don't know if you're religious at all.
I'm spiritual. Oh, I see Gap or Gain on the back, over in the back. Yeah, well, you got The Habit as well down there. I see it.
Oh, Crazy Love. Have you ever read Crazy Love?
No.
Crazy book.
What is it? Is it about like what is it? Crazy Love.
It's about our relationship with God. And I'll tell you a quick story. It was like it talks to you. So it's like most humans are only here for, let's say, 70 years. This world has been around for hundreds of thousands of years. And it's funny how we still think that this whole universe is about us.
Wow.
To put it in perspective,
That's...
imagine if Patryk was in a 5-hour movie. The movie was 5 hours, and you walked in the background for less than a second. But in your mind, you thought the movie was about you. Would you think that was crazy?
Wow. No, that's crazy. That is
nuts.
So,
you should read the book. It'll humble you.
I will humble you. I love that.
It will humble, yeah, for sure. It's just like, damn.
So crazy love for anybody that's listening. Cool. So last question, Brian, how can people reach?
People want to reach out to me, Instagram at the Brian Davila, BRINDAVILA.
And I will also add the links in here for Future Flipper. So you can actually go in and click. And if you want to check it out or see what the community is all about. Sorry, not Future Flipper, Wealthy Way. I had to correct myself. That's a new brand. So you got to cut me some slack there. Wealthy Way, guys. If you want to.
Wealthy investor.
Wealthy investor, living the wealthy way. There you go. Third time.
Branding, baby.
Branding, baby. All right. I'm going to get that. By the end of this year, I will call it the Wealthy Investor. No problems. That's my goal. So Wealthy Investor. Thank you so much, Brian.
Hi, brother. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Patryk Real Estate Show. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. Your support truly means a lot. And connect with Patryk in the show notes below. Until next time.